The night I betrayed my husband was the same night he was preparing to celebrate the love we had promised each other. While he was setting up candles in our dining room, my body was trembling in another man's arms. My wedding ring dug into my skin as I clutched the sheets of a bed that was not ours. It was our anniversary, the day that was supposed to honor our vows, but instead I shattered them with every desperate gasp that left my lips. Before I go further, I want to pause here and thank each one of you for subscribing to this channel. A big thank you goes to all the returning viewers who keep coming back and showing love, and to all the new viewers who are still considering it. I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button. It truly serves as the fuel and energy that keeps this channel alive. Do not forget to share your thoughts and reactions in the comments section right after this short hook. I love hearing how these stories resonate with you. Now let me take you back to where it all began. My name is Sarah. I am 36 years old, a woman who once believed she had it all. My husband, Mark, was everything that a good man should be. He was dependable, kind, steady, and loyal. We had been married for 12 years, living in a quiet suburb in North Carolina, in a house with wide windows and a porch where we drank coffee on Sunday mornings. To the world, we looked like a couple who had beaten the odds. But beneath the polished surface, my heart was restless. I loved Mark, but the fire that once lit our marriage had dimmed over the years. Our life had become a routine, safe but predictable. I began craving something I could not explain, something reckless, something that reminded me I was still alive. That something found me in the form of Jason, a man I had met at a friend's birthday party a few months earlier. He was the opposite of Mark, bold, flirtatious, and dangerously charming. He made me feel seen in a way I had not felt in years. It started with playful texts, the kind that felt harmless at first. But as the days passed, those messages turned into late-night calls, and those calls turned into stolen kisses. By the time our anniversary came around, I was already entangled in a secret that I could not escape. That morning, Mark kissed me softly and whispered, "Happy anniversary, love. Tonight will be special." His eyes sparkled with sincerity, and guilt twisted inside me. I smiled back, but my mind was already with Jason. I told Mark that I had errands to run before dinner. In reality, I drove to Jason's apartment. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white, but my body buzzed with anticipation. When I walked through his door, Jason wasted no time pulling me close. His lips claimed mine with hunger, and every thought of my husband, every memory of our vows, faded into the background. It was raw. It was intense. My body responded in ways I had not felt in years, and I hated myself even as I surrendered. The thrill of danger, the forbidden rush, the heat of his touch, it all consumed me. In that moment, I was not a wife celebrating 12 years of marriage. I was a woman chasing passion, no matter the cost. But even in the haze of desire, guilt clawed at me. I thought of Mark setting the table at home, probably smiling to himself as he pictured me walking through the door in my best dress. I imagined the candles he had bought, the wine he had chosen, the effort he was putting into making the night memorable. Meanwhile, I was betraying him in the most unforgivable way. When it was over, I lay in Jason's bed, staring at the ceiling, my chest still rising and falling. He traced circles on my skin as if nothing was wrong, but inside, I felt split in two. Part of me wanted to stay in that intoxicating high, but another part screamed at me to leave before everything collapsed. I gathered my clothes quickly, kissed him goodbye, and hurried back to my car. On the drive home, I rehearsed my lie. I told myself that I had only been out picking up last-minute groceries. By the time I pulled into our driveway, I had plastered a smile onto my face, ready to play the part of the loving wife. Mark greeted me at the door with flowers in his hands. His smile was wide, his eyes full of love. "You look beautiful," he said as he led me inside. The dining room was lit with candles, the table set with our best dishes. My heart ached as I took it all in. He had gone out of his way to make the night perfect, while I had already ruined it before it even began. We sat down to eat, and he poured me a glass of wine. He held up his glass for a toast. "To 12 years of love, Sarah." And to many more. I forced a smile and clinked my glass against his. The wine burned my throat as I swallowed, but the guilt burned deeper. That night, while he looked at me with eyes full of devotion, I felt the crushing weight of my secret pressing down harder than ever. He believed in us. He believed in me. And yet, I had betrayed him on the very day meant to celebrate our commitment. I told myself it was a one-time slip, that I would never let it happen again. But deep down, I knew that the fire I had lit would not die easily. And I knew that if Mark ever discovered the truth, the marriage we had built would collapse into ashes. And so, on the night of our anniversary, while Mark dreamed of forever, I had already planted the seeds of destruction. The morning after our anniversary, I watched Mark move around the kitchen with the same steady rhythm that had always defined him. He hummed softly as he made coffee, his movements calm, his presence warm. Nothing in him had changed. But everything in me had. The guilt from the night before clung to me like smoke that refused to fade. I tried to act normal, to laugh at his small jokes and ask about his plans for the day, but something in my smile must have looked forced. He paused at one point, tilting his head at me with a hint of concern. "You look tired," he said. "Did you not sleep well?" I nodded quickly, claiming it was the wine. Inside, my heart pounded. I wanted to believe that I could keep my secret buried, that my betrayal would remain hidden forever. But the truth has a way of clawing itself to the surface, no matter how deep you try to bury it. In the days that followed, I found myself caught in a dangerous rhythm. With Mark, I was the devoted wife, helping with chores, laughing at his stories, curling up beside him on the couch. With Jason, I was the reckless lover, sneaking away for stolen hours that set my body ablaze. The contrast between the two lives thrilled me, but it also terrified me. Mark began to notice small things. One evening, he hugged me and frowned. "You smell different," he said. I brushed it off with a lie about trying a new perfume. Another time, he called while I was with Jason, and I let it ring until it stopped. When I finally called back, I told him I had been in the shower. Each lie made my chest tighten, but Jason fed my hunger with words I had been starving to hear. He told me I was beautiful, irresistible, desired. He made me feel alive in ways I had forgotten I could feel. And even as guilt gnawed at me, I could not walk away. The first real crack appeared one Friday night. Mark and I were curled up on the couch, watching a movie. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. I glanced at it, and my blood ran cold. It was a message from Jason. "I miss the taste of you already." Mark reached for the phone before I could. I lunged forward, snatching it up with a laugh I hoped sounded casual. "Just Claire," I said, waving it off. "She always texts me ridiculous stuff." Mark's eyes lingered on me for a moment too long. He did not argue, but the seed of doubt had been planted. I could feel it in the way his questions became sharper, in the way his eyes lingered on me when I answered too quickly. Still, I convinced myself I was safe. I told myself he loved me too much to suspect me of anything that ugly. I was wrong. Mark's suspicions grew quietly. He never yelled, never accused me directly, but I saw the change. He started paying closer attention to my comings and goings. He asked me more questions about who I was meeting, what we talked about, how late we stayed out. At first, I thought it was just normal concern. But one night, I caught him staring at me with a look I had never seen before, cold, calculating, like he was studying a puzzle and waiting for the missing piece. That was the moment I realized he did not just suspect me. He was watching me. The tension in the house grew unbearable. At dinner, silence stretched between us, broken only by the clinking of forks. At night, his body felt distant beside mine, his warmth no longer wrapping me in comfort but pressing against me like a reminder of what I was betraying. One evening, as I was leaving to meet friends, Mark asked a question that made my heart skip. "Where exactly are you going, Sarah?" I froze. His tone was calm, but his eyes were sharp. I forced a smile, rattling off the name of a restaurant and the friend I was supposed to meet. He nodded slowly, too slowly. That night, Jason held me, whispering about how much he wanted me to leave Mark and be his. For a brief moment, I let myself imagine it, a life where I could live without lies, where I could choose passion over stability. But then I thought of Mark, of the home we had built, of the years we had shared. The idea of walking away from that seemed impossible. Still, the cracks were widening, and I could feel the walls closing in. Mark was not blind, and he was not a fool. I knew he was circling the truth, waiting for me to slip. What I did not know then was that he had already decided to stop relying on my answers. He was preparing to uncover the truth with his own eyes. And when he did, the explosion would be louder, and more destructive, than anything I could have imagined. The night it all came crashing down began like any other. I told Mark that I was meeting Claire for dinner. My voice was calm, practiced, the lie rolling off my tongue as naturally as if it were the truth. He smiled faintly, kissed my cheek, and told me to have fun. I left the house with my purse over my shoulder and my heart racing, never realizing that he already knew the truth. I drove to Jason's apartment, my pulse quickening with the anticipation I had come to crave. The moment he opened the door, his hands were on me, pulling me inside. I melted into him, letting his lips consume mine, forgetting for a moment that I was supposed to be celebrating an anniversary with my husband just days before. The guilt was there, like always, but the thrill drowned it out. What I did not know was that Mark had followed me. Hours later, Jason and I lay tangled in his sheets. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, and I reached for it. It was Mark. "When are you coming home?" I typed a quick reply about dessert and laughter with Claire, my fingers shaking only slightly. Jason chuckled, pulling me back into his arms, and for a moment, I believed the lie was safe. But then the knock came. A heavy, deliberate pounding that froze me in place. Jason looked confused, slipping on a shirt, while my stomach dropped to the floor. I already knew. Before Jason even opened the door, I knew. And there he was. Mark. He stood in the doorway, his eyes locked on me, not Jason. His face was calm, too calm, but his eyes burned with a fury I had never seen before. He looked at me like he no longer recognized me, like the woman he loved had died and all that was left was a stranger. "Sarah," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper. "On our anniversary." The weight of his words crushed me. I scrambled from the bed, clutching the sheet to my chest, begging him to let me explain. My words tumbled out in a frantic rush, excuses, apologies, desperate promises. But he did not listen. His silence was worse than shouting. Jason tried to speak, but Mark cut him off with a single look. He did not yell, he did not strike out, but the pain in his eyes was sharper than any blade. I reached for him, but he stepped back. "Do not touch me," he said. His voice was steady, but it trembled with the force of barely contained rage. "You destroyed everything." Tears poured down my face as I pleaded, but Mark shook his head. "You lied. You let me plan a future with you, while you gave yourself to another man. You do not deserve this home, this marriage, or me." And just like that, he turned and walked away. I followed him, barefoot and shaking, begging him to listen, but he did not stop. He got into his car and drove away, leaving me standing in the parking lot, my body wrapped in nothing but a sheet, my dignity shredded. When I returned home later that night, the locks had already been changed. My clothes were in trash bags by the door. A single note was taped above them in Mark's handwriting: "We are done." The finality of it crushed me. In that moment, I realized that my choices had destroyed the only man who had ever truly loved me. I had not just broken vows, I had broken him. And there would be no forgiveness, no second chance, no redemption. Jason tried to comfort me in the days that followed, but the truth was, he was never going to be my future. He was a mistake, a thrill, a flame that burned bright but left me in ashes. And as I sat alone in a cheap apartment weeks later, staring at the empty spaces where my life used to be, I finally understood the full weight of what I had done. I had traded a marriage built on love, loyalty, and trust for moments of passion that evaporated the second they ended. And the cost was everything. The night Mark caught me will haunt me for the rest of my life. It was the night my marriage died, the night my lies destroyed my home, and the night I lost the man who had loved me with a depth I never deserved. And no matter how much I cried, begged, or wished I could go back, the truth remained the same. I was the one who burned it all down.